Another thing with these strengths to remember is they're not just strengths for you, but they're strengths for society. So something that you might have a strength in is often another person's weakness. And that's where we kind of come together in a community and we help each other. Hi, welcome back to the Chinese Medicine podcast. Coming at you from my other office today. And I thought I would cover the next three aspects of these character strengths and virtues. So on the previous episode, if you missed that, that kind of talks about where to do the test and what it might be useful for, why you might want to do it. And then we started talking in detail about the different character strengths and virtues. There's 24 different strengths and they have major categories that they belong to. So we went through the first three, that was wisdom, courage and humanity. And now in the second part, we're going to talk about transcendence, justice and moderation. So transcendence includes things like appreciation of beauty, gratitude, humour, hope, and spirituality. So how would these things be useful for someone? If one of these things or a few of these things was your strength, how could that bring you happiness? That's what we're really talking about. How could you get more happiness out of your life by embracing these strengths, right? So some of these things might be in a job, or you might gravitate towards a job that you do. But if you're not in a job where you're doing that and you feel like this is something I'd like to explore, volunteer work is a really good way to explore transcendence, because it is something where it kind of transcends your need for just getting money or your need to survive. When people are in that place and they have all those things fulfilled, right, they're not sort of struggling to get their daily needs met, then that's when you start to think about transcendence. So that's a big part of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you follow his aspects of psychology, he would say you can't really get to transcendence unless you've got those needs, basic needs kind of met, because you're basically looking at survival. You're trying to, fulfill those needs: food, shelter, clothing, warmth, those kinds of things. And a lot of that comes down to money. So once you have all of that, or you have enough of that, you can survive. What then sort of comes next? Now, it'd be great if your job was about this, and some people do kind of combine. I talked in the previous video about like maybe you have a strength of leadership and a strength of kindness, and that's when you might, start up a charity or something like that. But a really good place to start in these things is just to start doing something. So let's talk about spirituality. Now, for lots of people, that could mean religious things, like that could mean their commitment to their faith, their involvement in a church, or their involvement in an organisation that's about spiritual things. Or it could just be leading a spiritual life, helping others to experience their spirituality, finding meaning in things that are not just, things that you see and touch, but things that you can that literally transcend those things. So possibly, things that, because faith is one of these things, or hope is part of that. And so, spirituality often involves faith, like it's a belief in something, or someone, or something bigger than yourself. So this is an aspect that, you can capacitate that life and, your existence on this planet is more than just you. If that's something that just think, that's normal for me, then probably these are part of your strengths. And so how could you use these? How could you do these things? So if that's something that maybe you haven't explored for a while, maybe you used to be a person that went to church, or you used to be a person that was involved in, things that helped you experience your spirituality, let's say. So even some people get that from going to like support groups or things where they have, that's basically what churches are. It's a group of like-minded people experiencing their spirituality together, right? So maybe there's something like that you could reconnect with, and that may bring you, a huge amount of happiness that you didn't realise had left you, or that was, a needed kind of part of it. Going back to, textbooks or books or things like that, and reading those things and getting involved in that and just letting that be part of you. Meditation is a big part of it, I really like what Russell Brand kind of does on his podcast, where he sort of allows people to experience that aspect of humanity, of spirituality, without it being sort of too biased in one way or something, but it just allows people to kind of be open to that. And so maybe just opening yourself up towards, those aspects might be something that you need to do. And maybe talking to people in your life that, are spiritual as well, that might help you connect with those things. Okay, the next one's appreciation of beauty. So this is something that, might be, if you have found yourself in a place where you don't feel that it's beautiful, it might be time to kind of start making that area beautiful again. Maybe you'll get a really big benefit out of going into your junk room and just cleaning it out, or making a space. Like, I remember, I think it was Jordan Peterson that said on his channel once, I think he said this a few times, is, every person should have at least one beautiful space in their home, a space that, you feel it's very pleasant, it's very appealing. Now, if appreciation of beauty is one of your strengths, you should definitely have that. You might want to have a whole house full of that. But sometimes we have these ideals and we can't really reach all of those things, and it's very hard to, get to that. And you think, that might make you stressed, just thinking, I wish I had all these things, these ideals that I can't attain to. So pick one space, even if it's not a whole room, pick a corner in the room and make that beautiful. Make that something you like. Now, if you're not even sure what you like, here's a really good way to kind of explore that. Either go on Google Images, or go on an image search on the internet and copy and paste all these different images onto a board, right? Or like a vision board, a photo board. You can go through magazines. In the old days, I used to cut up different pictures of magazines, and I've still done that. Sometimes I just print them out and put them all on a board. And it might just be things that appeal to you. For some reason, don't judge it, don't think about it too hard. Just, okay, I like this piece of furniture, I like this wood, I like the grain in that wood. I like the style of that furniture, I like that clothing that the person's wearing. I like the colour. Maybe go down to your local hardware store and pick out some colours, right? They have colour swatches there of all the paints. And you might pick out 3 or 4 colours. Interior design magazines are great for this kind of stuff, flicking through those things. Sometimes what I do, when you're thinking about, okay, I might make a house one day, or I might build a new house or something like that, I kind of, when I see something beautiful, I just keep a photo of that in just a little file on my phone. These are things I think are beautiful. So when I do that one day, I've done that with my clinics, I've done that with my businesses in the past, like when I've designed stuff. How do I want this to look? But that process of going through and seeing what you like will actually be helpful if you have this strength of appreciation of beauty. You might be your garden. You might think, I'm going to just make my garden beautiful. I'm going to do what I want in my garden. I'm just going to, things that you think, I'll just get around to that. There might be an area in your house that really disgusts you, and you think, I just want to get that not disgusting anymore, and just make that appealing and beautiful. Maybe your car, those kinds of things, right? So if that's a strength for you, that's one of the ways you could use it. Now, you could get into things like to do courses in, might be good in a job like interior design or architecture, community design, where you think I really have this eye for beauty, helping people with their wardrobe, helping people transform their life through the aesthetics of how they could, be beautiful. Maybe you work in, something where you are working on people's cosmetic beauty, like you might be even a cosmetic surgeon, you could be a beauty therapist, those kinds of things where you're helping people discover their beauty, and you would get a great benefit out of that for yourself, right? The next one is gratitude in Transcendence. Now, the easiest way to explore gratitude, or to uncover that for yourself, would be to keep what's called a gratitude journal. So what you do is you just get a notebook, and you make a point of every day, you're going to write down something. They might forget every day, so you could do it once a week. But if you do it daily, you'll find that these insignificant things kind of, you write them down. Like one time I used to keep this journal regularly, right? And so things I would write down was like, I got a parking spot today, and it was I know it's really hard to get a parking spot at that particular time at that place. I do in my teaching job, for instance. Like sometimes I go there in the middle of the day. There's no chance I'm getting a parking spot. Whiz around the car park for half an hour sometimes looking for one. And, if I just got a parking spot in that place, I'd be like, yes, that would be great. I mean, even better, sometimes people give you a parking ticket from their previous, you took their spot and they gave you their ticket, right? I'm so grateful for that. Maybe you're just thinking, you might have encountered someone in a lesser situation than yourself, and you think, I'm grateful for a roof over my head, because I met this homeless man today, and I heard his story, and I was like, that could be me. And I was grateful for what I have. Just things like pick something to be grateful for. Helping others realize that gratitude. it really sets you into a frame of mind, especially if you go through a place of being down and you think, what's the point? There's nothing much going on in life for me. This is all bad. This is all terrible. And look, we all go through times where we feel like that. But gratitude can be something that kind of literally, that's why it's in this transcendence, because it transcends you from what's happening in the here and now to what the possibility realm and what else could be out there, and those kinds of things. It's also, part of it is perspective. So a bad thing could happen, but there might be a good thing that happened in that bad thing. I've often been in a hurry and something has happened and you've been like, oh no, I've left something at home, I've got to drive all the way home and get it. When you get home, you've left the oven on or the stove on. That's happened to me before. And you're so grateful that, for whatever reason, and this might be also linked to your spirituality. You might think, well, God's looking after me. You noticed, He made me leave something at home so that I had to go back, otherwise my house might have burnt down. Literally could have burnt down. But at the time you're probably not thinking about that because you didn't know about that. You're just frustrated that it took you an extra thing to go back home to get something, And the next one in this is hope. So, you could also make a list of things you're hopeful for. Like, what do you, not so much wishes, like, okay, I wish a genie would come and do this for me. But what am I hoping for? What am I believing for in the future? What am I hopeful that could happen? If you have a goal, you're obviously hopeful, hopefully hopeful that something's going to happen. You don't make a goal thinking this will never happen. Otherwise, why would you make that goal? So, dwelling on that, making a point of acknowledging that could be super duper useful. And the final one in transcendence is humour. So look, maybe you are going to be a jokester, maybe you're going to be a comedian, but you might just be able to brighten other people's day with humour. We might not even realise how much that. One is that your humour helps other people. Now, that this can sometimes be, and not everyone gets your sense of humour and those kinds of things, but it also might be something that you could use for yourself, where humour works for you, it cheers you up, and sometimes you just need that. So, I keep a bunch of files on my computer, or just know things that I know this will cheer me up, right? Some people like looking at cats on the piano. But if there's certain comedy shows that you watch that cheers you up, it's good to have that stuff in your life. It's good to have those things to go to and to be able to do that. It's good to have friends that that will just make you laugh. And you could just ring those people and say, hey, we haven't caught up for ages. Let's go out for dinner, and you're just going to have a great laugh with them. And I don't think there's anything greater than that sometimes. Like that's gold. So that's humour, right? Being able to laugh at yourself, being able to laugh with other people through their difficult times, helping each other through humour, that can be very useful. And sometimes it's hard to experience humour like that from people that aren't your close friends, because you can kind of, you can do things with people that are close to you that you can't with other people, that might get offended, or, things like that. So I'm not saying post funny memes all over your Facebook page, but, that contact that you have with humour in some way, like that makes you laugh and that cheers up people around you, that's very powerful. And then the last one is moderation. So what is moderation? It doesn't sound very exciting, but it's also very needed. And another thing with these strengths to remember is they're not just strengths for you, but they're strengths for society. So something that you might have a strength in is often another person's weakness. And that's where we kind of come together in a community and we help each other, right? So forgiveness, modesty, prudence, and self-control. These are strengths. Now, if these are your strengths, these things will generally come more naturally to you than other people. I don't think forgiveness is easy for any person, right? But there's some people where it comes more naturally to them, or that's where they think about that more than feeling like, oh, I'm the one that's owed and I need to get my revenge and those kinds of things. When something happens to them, they may be more open to seeing the other side of things. And how that could help others is to also encourage other people. Like, I've seen people go through real bad hardships and think, you kind of almost deserve something to happen to that other person. Like, you feel like, that would almost, it doesn't make it right, but it almost like feels like that, that's what the other person doesn't deserve, the forgiveness. And yet, someone forgives them, and that makes you feel like well, maybe I should forgive other people in my life. So even just hearing stories like, there might be people that you connect with through like reading their books, YouTube channels, things like that, where you hear how they've gone through a journey of forgiveness, and that might also encourage you and help you, because it's not just you forgiving, but it's you being around that kind of can be part of helping you, just to help you feel better, like to help you feel more happy. How could you use that in a wider context or something like that? So it might be something where you might work in an industry which is about forgiveness. You might work in an industry which is, might have opportunity to do that in your job. Let's say you're a debt collector, and you can have mercy on people, or you couldn't do that every day because you'd never collect the debts. But the way you go about your job might make you, more compassionate and more kind in that job, and actually a better person at the job, because you're able to sort of see through situations like that. Another one is modesty. This is not something we hear often. We don't see this promoted in society as a strength, as a virtue, right? Modesty. So what does modesty even mean? Well, some of these things in these categories are hard to separate into individual things, right? So within this aspect of temperance, it's about moderating the behaviours that our instincts might have, right? So like forgiveness, for instance, we have an instinct for revenge. Oh yes, I need to get my revenge. A person who has a strength of temperance, wouldn't act on those instincts as quickly. And so with modesty, it's like, maybe I don't need to put everything out there in terms of clothing could be part of it. I don't need to sexualize everything in terms, just to get attention. There's other ways to get what I want without having to be exposed or expose other people. But also you might see that in how other people are treating people. You might think, hey, you're exposing them unnecessarily, and I want to bring modesty to that situation. I want to bring like a temperance to that situation. These strengths kind of prevent us from being too selfish, too arrogant. And I'm not saying that you have to go around sort of telling everybody, but you might feel the need to do that because you kind of notice these things more than other people do. So, sometimes when you have a strength, it can be frustrating if people, one is they don't embrace that, other people don't embrace it. And you think, where does this fit? Like this, it might become frustrating to you because you might think, how do I use it? So maybe just knowing these, actually having a list of those strengths and knowing that about yourself is a great place to start to kind of understand, might uncover the reason why you feel frustrated about something. So we have sort of forgiveness and mercy, we have humility and modesty. So modesty, not just, clothing bearing all, but also, being humble, being respectful in that thing. Now, there's lots of cultures that are like that. Not many Western cultures are kind of naturally humble. They're more like, well, you better raise yourself up because no one else is going to raise you up, right? You better talk yourself up because no one else is going to talk you up. So I'm not saying you have to be humble all the time, but there is a place for that humility. There is a place for that, hey, I don't have to be the top dog in everything. And maybe that's, if that's your strength, then you would find this easy. And possibly the other thing you could do with this is, you can bring this to an organisation where they might be very easily to say, well, hey, we just have to big note ourselves. We have to, might say, hey, we're talking ourselves up too much here. We don't need to do that. We can bring some humility, some temperance to this situation. So it's kind of this moderation effect that these strengths have. And the final one is kind of self-control or self-regulation. Now, it's a big one in our society because we have lots of things that we can get addicted to. People who have a strength of self-control, they find this easier. Now, no one finds it 100% easy. I think if you were left to your own devices and you didn't have these checks and balances in place, everyone would just get out of control. If there was enough reward in it without the risk, let's say, or without the detriment, everyone would just do the things that feel good all the time. But people who have a strength of temperance and particularly self-control find it easier to do that. So you might be a really good mentor for people that struggle. Like they just don't know. They don't know how to do this. They don't know how to have this step by step. how do I have this control? How do I have this moderation? Someone who I see this kind of in society teach this a lot is someone like Jordan Peterson. You see in lots of his books, particularly the names of the books give it away, like 12 Rules for Life, like a solution to the order, like a solution to the chaos, right? Bringing order to the chaos. That's someone who can teach that, and people who read that think, wow, I never knew how to do that. That's so new to me. Well, that's what you can do if you have this as a strength. You can do this in your family. You can help your kids to learn this. You could help, you could teach a little class at your primary school or your high school in how to have these skills and show people how to do that, because it just comes naturally to you. So I hope this has been useful and helpful to you to sort of learn about these strengths. And you need to kind of go onto the VIA strengths and do the test. It's a free test. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you've just clicked on this video and you think, oh, you've watched it till this far. Good on you. You can go back to the first one and watch that as well, and that'll kind of give you a bit more of an intro into these things. So I'm going to talk also about how these things might relate to an imbalance, might relate to these things in Chinese medicine as well. So we think of things like emotional aspects being directly linked to the physical aspects. And sometimes what can happen is might naturally be who you are. You might think, hey, Marie, that was a strength for me in the past, but it just doesn't feel like I get the benefit out of that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. Like something might be out of balance that's physically making it harder for you to experience the joy of, having that strength active in your life. So we're going to talk about that on the next video. So hopefully we'll see you again, and thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure you press the subscribe button. Share the video if you find this helpful and useful, and you think, oh, I've got some friends and family that might find it useful as well. Feel free to share the videos or the audio podcast with people you know. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.